Hello and welcome to Concur Request and Expense Training. My name is Dewanna Jones. I am a training consultant with Concur Technologies. To gain access into Concur, you will need to go to the following website: www.concursolutions.com. Again, the website address is www.concursolutions.com. You can access our website 24 hours a day as long as you have internet connection. Now let's go ahead and go into the live site. Once you go to the Concur home page, you will see the sign-in page where you are required to enter in a username and a password. Now, we do recommend that you bookmark this page as your favorite so you can select the option to remember your username on this computer. Now, if you happen to have forgotten your username or forgotten your password, Concur has these links available to assist you with retrieving your username information or receiving an email link to reset your password. When you're ready to sign in to Concur, you will hit the orange sign in button. Once you sign into Concur, you will automatically be taken to the Concur homepage. And you'll know this because you'll see the Concur logo highlighted in the top left-hand corner. Now, this is a click-based tool, so you are more than welcome to click any of the tabs that you see to the right of the logo. So you can go directly to your request area. You can click on expense and go into your expense area, or you can go into the App Center area where Concur has different partners and vendors that you can actually sync your Concur profile with. Over to the top right-hand corner, you'll have access to support, where you can gain access to Concur support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To the right of support, you have the help window, where below you will have an option to an additional training area, where you can see some short videos that are subject-specific to help you through your request and expense needs. If you want additional documentation on expense or on request, we have the help options there, and you can even take a tour of Concur. Below the support and help window, you have the profile section. So in the profile area, if you expand it, you will see a link to go to the profile settings or either sign out of Concur. Let's go ahead and go into our profile. Once in your profile, you will notice that your profile is broken into 4 sections. First, your information. The second, request settings. Third section, expense settings. And fourth section, other settings. Now, we are not going to go over every option as displayed here, but I am going to highlight a few key items. Let's start off under your information, and we'll go into the area of email addresses. You will be automatically taken to the email address section of your profile. You will see that your company email has already been preloaded for you. To the right of that area, it will state that that email has not been verified. You want to go ahead and click on this verify link. That will kick off the process for Concur to send you a verification email. In the body of that email is going to be a long verification code. We recommend that you highlight that code, copy that code, and return back to your Concur profile, where you can paste that code in this enter code section here. If you have not received that email within 1 or 2 minutes after sending the request off, please check your junk mail, as it may have been placed into that folder. Once you've verified your email address, you have now started off the ability for you to be able to email in receipt images. Maybe it's receipt attachments that were scanned images as a JPEG, PDF, or TIFF file, or maybe it's a receipt within the body of an email. You will now be able to forward that email address directly to the following email address, is receipts@concur.com. Again, you can forward in receipt images that maybe are scanned, JPEG, PDF, or TIFF files and send it directly into Concur at receipts@concur.com. Because you're sending it from the verified email address, Concur knows exactly where to load that receipt image. When you're done, please make sure you save your profile. Now let's go into our next section, which is the same settings for request and expense. You will have information for either request or expense information where your default coding will automatically appear. Below, also in request and in expense, you have a delegate feature. In this delegate feature, you are allowed to delegate to a fellow coworker, team member, or administrative support. Now, you can click on any one of these delegate options, and when you select that delegate option, under expense delegates as an example, you can select add, begin typing that user's name, select them from the drop-down, and they will appear below. There are different options that you can delegate off to this user by simply clicking or selecting the checkbox under that option. Once you're done, you will select Save, and Concur is going to save your changes. Now, if you are someone that would receive the delegation or someone will delegate authority to you, there is an option for Delegate For. Under that Delegate For option, you will see the name of the user that has delegated directly to you. You will see what they have delegated or the authorities that they've granted to you on their behalf, but notice you will not be able to make any changes or add to yourself. One of the immediate ways that you'll know if that you're a delegate is in your profile section. You'll see an extended box area that says Acting as Other User. When you see this option, someone has delegated authority to you. Their name will appear in the drop-down, and you can simply click on their name and select them in that drop-down box. When you're ready to go into their area or their Concur screen, just simply click the option Start a Session. Concur will transition you over into their screen, and you can begin assisting them on whatever task is at hand, whether it's request or expense related. When you're done completing that task and you're ready to return back to your Concur homepage, simply return back to the profile area and select a box that says Done Acting for Others. The delegate feature allows you to switch within the tool without having to share login information. All right, let's continue to our last option, which is the preference area. So either under request preference or expense preference, Concur will send you email notifications on any of the following items that are listed below. If you see something that you do not want to receive an email for, simply just uncheck that checkbox and select Save, and Concur is going to save your changes. So I'm going to click on Profile in the top left-hand corner to let you know that is the easiest way to return to the Home Profile Options page. Now let's click on the Concur logo in the top left-hand corner to return to the home page. Once you click on the company or Concur logo, just below you will see your company logo displayed with a greeting and your name. To the right of that logo are some boxes that we call quick links. You can click on them, they will quickly take you to the area that they are responsible for. So you can start a request, start a report, or even upload receipt images. If emailing receipt images into Concur is not something you want to do, but you prefer to just upload them directly into your own personal receipt store, go ahead and click on the Upload Receipt option that you see displayed here. You'll be able to upload JPEG, PDF, or TIFF files directly into your receipt store. The additional fields that have a numerical value, we call that within the Concur methodology of counting down to 0. We want all of our busy business travelers to be able to log into Concur and immediately know what items require their attention. Below that area, you will see a section called Company Notes. Within Company Notes, there will be some great and useful information that's been placed out here from your internal Concur team. Please review the information that has been displayed. There are even items that are actually quick links or hot links to take you to another page. If you need to expand this area to read more, there's a gray button on the bottom right-hand side that says Read More. Last but not least, there's the My Task area, which is more of an expansion to the fields up above. letting you know or giving you the opportunity to get a little preview of the information that is available. So let's go ahead and start off by starting a request. You must complete a request before you start your travel. Once you click Start a Request, you're going to automatically be taken to the new request header form. In the request header, you will need to select a request policy. When you select this drop-down, there will be 3 policies listed. If you are a traveler that's doing research and has lodging per diem, or maybe you're going to a conference but not staying at the conference hotel, then the first policy, single GSA hotel policy, is what you would select. If you are a traveler that has multiple trip destinations, maybe visiting multiple cities, towns, states, or countries, or maybe you are attending a conference but will be staying at the conference hotel, then selecting the second policy will be what's best for you. Let's go ahead and start off with the single GSA hotel policy. When you select that request policy, there will be some fields of information that is required to have some information in, and it's represented with a red bar on the left-hand side. You see all of the fields that are available to you to complete. Make sure you put in your request trip start date and your request end date. Select your destination country. You can select from the drop-down or start typing. A few letters let Concur provide you the search results based on the information you've entered. You'll need to put in a destination city. Now you can start typing a city name, or if you've already selected that city before, it will be available to you in the drop-down. You'll need to select a report purpose or trip purpose, and this has been a predetermined list, so you can select it from the drop-down. Select your traveler type, and one of the last questions in this section is a policy request form required? You will be responsible for saying yes or no if that exception is required. If it is required, you will need to make sure that document or that completed document exception form is completed and scanned and available on your computer, or even if you've emailed it in directly into receipts@concur.com. That attachment will need to be made to this request. Below the blue line are some additional fields of information. Will this particular request require a parking permit needed? Select yes or no. Is a cash advance needed? You'll need to select yes or no. If you select yes, there is a section on the cash advance below where you will need to enter in your cash advance amount, and you can add a cash advance comment. Please note that the cash advance can possibly be reduced or changed depending on the rates and per diem options based on your trip. Once you're done, go ahead and select Save. Once you select Save, you're automatically taken to the next tab of Expenses. This is where you have the opportunity to go ahead and enter in all your expected expenses for this particular trip. You can select from the expense types that you see listed on the right-hand side, or you can even start searching by typing in a few letters within that expense type name and let Concur reduce the search results. So let's select airfare as an example. It will appear here, but if you accidentally selected the incorrect one, you have the ability to change it over. You'll select your trip start date, trip end date, which copied down from your request header. You will need to put in your transaction amount for this particular trip and mark if it's personal travel or not, yes or no. There are additional custom fields that will appear or will be displayed depending on the expense type you selected. Last but not least, we need to select a payment method. When I'm done, I'm going to select Save. Now let's select a hotel. Notice how the information has changed. We can put in our number of nights, select our payment method, and make sure all of our fields have been completed. Select Save. You also have the ability to enter in car mileage. Maybe it is mileage from your location into traveling maybe to the airport for drop-off or to catch your flight. Just make sure that your information is completed and filled in, and select Save. Please note, you will continue to enter in all of the expected expenses for this particular trip. In this example, I'm just going to stop at the ones that are displayed. Now, let's talk about attachments. How do you attach images or items to an expense request? You will go into Attachments in the top right-hand corner and select the option to attach documents. When you come to select to attach the documents, a pop-up window will appear letting you know all of the different formats that you can use, file formats, to upload. Concur will also mention the size limit per file. Simply browse on your computer and select that file to upload. Once you have selected the files or multiple files, you will click the option to upload it. Concur is going to confirm when that image has been attached. Once completed, hit Close to return back to your request. Now, in your request, you are responsible for selecting your banner index information. You can click on a particular expense. On the right-hand side, you will see an Allocate button. Now, you can allocate while entering in your expense. Once you click that Allocate button, all of the expenses within the request will be listed. You can allocate to a different banner index one at a time, or you can select the checkbox at the top to allocate all of them, all items. Select Allocate Selected Expenses, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you are taken to an area where you will see your index field open. Now, in this field, you can begin typing in the code, typing in a text description. Concur does allow you to search by text, code, or either. Once you make that selection of that line item, you can make sure you select Save, or if you are splitting it between multiple banner indexes, you can select the option to add a new allocation and begin typing in some text for you to select. Concur is going to automatically split it 50-50, and you can switch and allocate by percentage or amount. Once you're done, you will select Save. Please note, allocations must be completed for every expense line that you put in this request. If you try to submit your request, as we're about to do now, and you have not allocated all of the line items, you will receive an error message. Now, if you're not sure if you have allocated all the line items, one of the easiest way to identify it is by this icon that looks like a colorful pie chart. This stands for that this expense has been allocated. Now you're ready to submit this request off for approval. Click on Submit Request. You will see a final review screen pop up where you will be able to review the CCSU Request User Agreement, the Cash Advance Agreement, and the Travel Compliance Agreement. Click Accept and Submit again. You will see that your request has been successfully submitted and is awaiting approval. Now let's click and start a new request. This request we're going to do is a multi-trip destination or a conference hotel request policy. Once I change that policy, notice we have additional fields that appear. Let's complete the information that's required at the top of the screen. After you've completed all the fields of information, the first section below the first blue line will ask, are you traveling to other destinations? Well, if this is a multi-trip destination, you want to make sure to select yes. The next field asks for the number of destinations. So in this example, we're going to put how many destinations we're going to have. In the second, you need to identify the second destination start date, and it must be in tune or within the original trip request start date and trip end date. It cannot be outside of that time frame. So with that being said, just mark when you will be in the second destination of this trip. Put in the destination city name and the destination country. After you've entered in this information, please make sure to look at these additional required fields below about the parking permit and your cash advance. Once you're done, you will select Save and continue with completing this request option by entering in your expenses. Now I'm going to return back to our Manage Request homepage, and by default you can see your active requests listed here. You can tell your status, which ones you're still working on, and again which one is going towards and sent for approval. You can see any past requests that you've submitted listed by changing the view. Now let's return to our Concur homepage by clicking on the Concur logo. Now let's transition and talk about starting a new expense report. So let's say you already have your request, and now you're ready, after you return from your trip, you're ready to submit your expenses for reimbursement. So to start a new expense, we can click on Start a Report on the home page, or click under the Expense tab and click on New Expense. Once you start a report, you're going to automatically be taken to the expense report header. You will need to, in this report header, in the expense report header, in completing all of these fields, make sure you name the report and trip name very close to your request. Enter in your trip start date and your trip end date. Put in your report trip purpose, your trip type. Is it travel in-state, travel international, travel out-of-state? Make sure you make the correct selection for your travel for this request. Select your traveler type, and if you need a new policy exception request form, select yes or no. We do have tooltips in the system that's represented by a blue mouse with a question mark. You can hover over it and get some additional explanation on this field itself. Now we see in the Request tab below, and this is where we're going to click Add to add that approved request. Simply check off the request that you want to add to this expense report and click Add. The request will appear below. Once completed, you'll click Next to go to the next step in the expense report process. In this travel allowance pop-up window, you will see if this expense is team travel, recruiting, group travel, in-state mileage, please answer no. If it does not meet those requirements, go ahead and answer yes. You will be automatically taken to the travel allowance page. It's a three-step process. Let's go into the explanation on how to enter in your travel allowance. In the travel allowance field, you will see a section that says Selection. You will need to make sure to select the correct field information. This field should only be changed if the traveler should be reimbursed at the conference rate for lodging. Now we're going to complete our fields of information on the right-hand side. Then we need to complete all the fields displayed. After you entered in the fields of information, select Save. Now that was your outbound information. You will need to put in your return information. Once you've completed the return information, simply select Save, and you'll see again your outbound and your return information. Then click Next to go to the second step of the travel allowance process. This is in reference to itineraries. You have just created itineraries for this particular trip. If you need to edit or unassign them, you can select or make your selection above. If you have additional itineraries you want to add to this expense report, they will be listed below to simply adjust or change and look for the available itineraries to assign. Now let's go to the third and final step by clicking the Next button on the bottom right-hand side. Please note, if there's any personal time on the travel, click the box underneath Exclude to exclude, and it will deduct. If no meals should be reimbursed, you can also exclude them or select the option to exclude all. Maybe the food and meals is provided during the duration of your stay. If you have been provided some sort of meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, please make sure that you mark the correct box with the correct meal that was provided on the particular day. Concur will recalculate that amount and put in and display your allowance. Now you're ready to click on Create Expenses. Once you click on Create Expenses, the per diem allowance for the days that we've just entered will automatically be added on the left-hand side. This is where you're building your expense report. Notice where it says Expenses, everything below Expenses is your actual expense report. You'll see the name of the expense report displayed in the top left-hand corner, and you will see some menu options below the title. On the right-hand side, you will see a tab that says New Expenses on the right, where all of your Concur expense types are displayed and available. Looks very similar to your request format. When ready, you will go ahead and start entering in your exact fees or charges. So let's start off for airfare as this example. We'll put in our airfare information. Complete our fields of information, and notice on the bottom left-hand side where it says request, you're going to see that request information with the amount that you stated you were going to spend on this particular transaction. When done, you're going to go ahead and hit select save, and this information is going to be placed or entered in on the left-hand side. Sometimes in your expense report, you may come across what we call exceptions. Exceptions appears in this red box on the top of your screen. Exceptions are messages there to guide and assist you with completing your expense report correctly. In that exception box, Concur is going to identify what expense type it's referring to, the date of the expense, the amount of the expense, and in the exception area, it's going to advise you what is missing. So with that being said, just know that there are two types of exceptions. One is a red exclamation point, and those are items that must be resolved in order to submit your report off for approval. Now, I always hide my exceptions because, one, I'm still building, and two, Concur will identify what line item it's referring to with that exception message. There's also a yellow triangular shaped exception message. Now that exception message is more of an FYI or to bring something to your attention. Now when we click on that expense line item, we can see it's missing a required allocation field. As you know, we can get to allocate on the line item itself. So we're going to go ahead and click allocation, so we can go back to the allocation screen. Now our allocation information automatically displayed on the screen. And now we need to enter in our employee division. Once you've entered in the allocation information, select Save, select OK, and click Done. Next, let's enter in our hotel. Put in our checkout date, our vendor name. We can type in the hotel name that we stayed at. It should be available in your drop-down list. Select your city location and make sure to choose your payment type. And enter in the amount that you paid. With hotel bills, as you can understand, with hotel, it can include your lodging, meals, other items, but you need to fully allocate your hotel bill. You want to go ahead and hit the Itemize button. When you select the Itemize, you're going to see the exception for the Itemize. We're going to hide it. And now we're going to be on this Nightly Lodging Expense tab. Go ahead and put in the number of nights that you stayed and tab down. Now, with that being said, we're going to correct that. Enter in our date, and now we need to enter in our nightly room rate along with our fields for our room tax. Put in your room rate and your room tax. Now you can separate it per each field, or you can combine it into one field. When you're done, you'll hit Save Itemizations on the bottom right-hand side, and Concur is going to create those entries and create sub-line entries for each one of those entries for the hotel and the tax per day. Now all itemizations will be represented with an arrow pointing down. You can click on this arrow when you want to hide those sublines behind the original line item. Now let's go into our mileage. I'm going to search for mileage so I can shorten our list. Click on the personal car mileage, let Concur pop up one of our Google Maps or our Google Maps feature. You'll see the map on the right-hand side, and then you'll need to put in your waypoints. Now Concur does need a waypoint of a point A and a point B. Once you enter in a point A and a point B, the Google Maps feature is going to zoom in and have the representation of the route it believes you're taking from point A to point B by a blue line highlighted on the right side. Now this blue line, you can adjust it and change it for any route that you've actually driven. Concur will also give you directions on the left-hand side with suggested routes. So when you click on those routes, the blue line will adjust accordingly. So again, once you make your selection, you can collect it from the directions, and you also can add additional waypoints, additional stops. If you need to, you can simply make something a round trip by clicking on the round trip options, and Concur will put the round trip route on the screen. Now, normally, or you'll see on the left-hand side where there's an option that says deduct commute. You will have to deduct your normal route from your home to your office with mileage that you are actually expensing for. Once you've entered in your home location and the office location, you will see the amount of miles between that commute. Now, if it's a round trip, you will need to select the option to deduct round trip and make sure you select to add the mileage to expense. Once you add that mileage to the expense, Concur is going to automatically populate that from location to location and the distance driven minus that deduct commute. You need to make sure to put in that transaction date and the purpose for your trip. When you're done, you'll select Save, and that information will appear on the left-hand side. Please continue to enter in all of your additional information or expenses that was included on your original request, your original approved request. Now let's continue on, and let's show what you have available in the Detail menu option. Under Details, you can return back to your report header, the totals of your expense report. You can see the audit trail, and the audit trail will not be created until you first submit your report. Concur does track the status of your expense report every step of the process. You can see your approval flow, add additional comments to your report, and go into the allocation screen. Now we're going to go ahead and select allocations because your mileage is the only allocation portion that will not copy over from your request. So you will need to allocate your selected personal car mileage. When you're done, you will select Save. Concur will save your allocations, and it will mark it in the group. When you click Done and Return to, you will meet your qualifications and requirements for your personal car mileage allocations. Also in the Detail menu, you can add additional itineraries for travel allowance. You can add available itineraries, adjust your expense and adjustments on the screen. Now let's talk about receipts. Concur will automatically let you know which line items require a receipt image to be attached. It's going to be represented with an actual yellow icon. It looks like a piece of paper with an exclamation point. Now, you will need to add that receipt image to this particular line item. Now, you can go to Receipts. You can attach receipt images for those of you that have it scanned on your computer. You can browse for that file, select the expense line you want to attach, and it will attach it to the line item. You also can go to Receipts. You can view which line items have receipt required if you don't see all of your yellow icons. You can check receipts that's been attached. You can view available receipts in your receipt store, or you can create a missing receipt affidavit. Please note, delegates cannot create a missing receipt affidavit on someone else's behalf. Only the user themselves can create a missing receipt affidavit because you are ultimately accepting and acknowledging an agreement. Over to the right-hand side, you will see a link that says Available Receipts. In the Available Receipts, you will see your Available Receipt Store, where you can upload receipt images directly into your receipt store by browsing, finding those particular files or line items, clicking Open, and uploading those images there. They will appear there. You also can email them in directly to receipts@concur.com, and once you submit them or send them in, give them about 1 to 2 minutes. If not, you can click on the refresh button. Once you refresh, those images will appear also. You can click on a receipt image. You can toggle through going from next to previous image. You can zoom in or zoom out of receipt images at any time. You can return back to the gallery. Now you can attach your receipt images very easy. It takes less than 3 seconds. You'll simply click on that line item and drag and drop it to that line item, releasing your mouse, and voila, the icon changes from yellow to blue. Let's see that one more time. We're going to drag and drop it to the line item, and voila, it's attached. Now you can hover over that blue icon since it's no longer yellow, and you have the ability to detach it from the entry if you accidentally attach the incorrect receipt image. If you do that, that image is going to be returned back to your receipt store to be used to attach to the correct expense. So let me attach it one more time so we can meet our receipt requirements. Now you have the ability to print copies of your detail report or a detail report with summary data. Now we're ready to submit our report off for approval. See the orange button, Submit Report, in the top right-hand corner. You're going to see your user electronic agreement, which we advise you to go ahead and review this information before you click on to Accept and Submit. If your report has exceptions, you need to go ahead and resolve those exceptions. Make sure you review what your exceptions are. So we forgot to make sure we allocate our per diem allowance. No problem, that's a quick fix. Go to Details, down to Allocations, select our per diem items, select the option to allocate the selected expenses. Make sure you enter in your banner index information. That will be displayed there. Select Save so Concur can save your changes, and click OK, and click Done. Now, immediately these exceptions will not go away because those exceptions were triggered based on the submission of the report. So in order for the system or Concur to refresh on that expense report, you'll need to go through the submission process again. Your report will display that it has been successfully submitted. You'll see the name of the approving manager, and you will see your totals of your expense report. You'll even see your company disbursement. Once you hit close, you will see that that expense report has been submitted off for approval. You can always go into the expense report and recall it back to you if you need to add some additional items to you. Let me return back to the expense tab. And on the right-hand side, you will see the report library. Of any past, you have the ability to go and view past expense reports that you've submitted based on their status, and so you just simply change the view. Now we've submitted this expense report off to the approving manager, so that approving manager is going to get an email notification that there's an expense report awaiting their approval. Approving managers will log directly into Concur, and once they log in, they will immediately see how many expense reports require their approval. They can click on the Required Approvals area, which will automatically take them under the Approvals tab, and then they'll see the expense report awaiting their approval for review, and to know if there's some exceptions. They can click on the expense report name and see the exceptions displayed immediately at the top of the screen. Now they can hide the exceptions because they will need to review every single line item that is appearing in the report. They can see the itemizations, which will have the arrow pointing at the line item. They can click on that arrow and see the sublines displayed. Also hover over the allocation icon to see how that expense report was allocated. Anything with a receipt, they can hover over the receipt image to see more of that particular expense. And with personal card mileage, they can click on it and see the information that's displayed. Even see the mileage calculator portion. Approving managers have a few options. One, they can approve this expense report and let it go into the next step of its approval process, or send it back to the user. If they see something incorrect or they have questions on, they can select to send it back to the user, and they will need to enter in the comments. They need to make sure the comments, again, are detailed. Once complete, they'll select OK, and that expense report is immediately sent back to the user. And approving managers, you have access to past expense reports that you approved. And all you need to do is change the view also to one of these line items, and the view will refresh and you'll see the expenses that's been approved in the past. If you want to search specifically for certain information, you will see the options that's available to you in the drop-down. Now that expense report has been returned back to the user, you will get an email notification and you'll log back into Concur. Once you sign back into Concur, you will see you have an open report. In the open report section, you will see that that expense report has been returned. You can click on Open Report, and it'll take you under the Expense tab. You'll notice that your expense report is no longer green, it's now red. It's because it's been returned. And you'll see the comments from the approving manager directly on this screen. So you can click into the expense report, make the change to the item that your manager has asked you to do. So I am going to unattach that receipt, make sure I attach a new and correct receipt line item, but the key thing I want you to know is Concur is not going to know when you have corrected what has been requested from you, so please make sure that you submit that report back to your approving manager. Now let's return back to our PowerPoint. As a reminder, you have additional help available to you in your top right-hand corner under the Help option, and you'll go to the Training option. A separate window will appear, and you will see your active Concur training site, where you can expand either expense training videos or request training videos that are subject specific. I I want to thank you as you have just completed your Concur request and expense end user training. Thank you.